What is up, guys? I'm George Massey. So, 90 Day Fiance, Happily Ever After, Season 7, Episode 10 is aired. Now, we checked back in onto this roller coaster ride that we call Ed and Liz. So, after all of the fighting and after Ed telling Liz to actually pack her stuff and leave his house, give back the ring, they were not getting married. Ed and Liz somehow find themselves back together and actually in therapy. Now, I never really have a lot of positive things to say about this relationship because I feel like toxic relationships are not good for anyone involved. But going to therapy, I think, is definitely something that could help them individually. Now, whether or not they're a good match for each other, I'm still leaning towards no. I just, even in the best state, in their best selves, I don't know that Ed and Liz complement each other to the point of being in a relationship. And to prove that point, we saw last night Liz said to the therapist that she was once homeless and living in her car, and she doesn't want to get back to that state where she can't take care of herself. And she also wants to be more independent because she had stopped working because Ed felt insecure about her working with different women and different men, staying out late, going out for drinks, and just her having a social life of her own. Now, shockingly, Ed was not even aware that Liz had lived in her car. And this kind of brings me to the point where they don't know enough about each other to even be engaged, let alone to be married. I feel like in order to be married, you need to know that person's life story and you need to know everything about them. The person that you marry should be a book that you have read from cover to cover, and you could literally write a book report on that person's life. And I feel like Ed and Liz are just not at that point. I do feel like Ed doesn't take the initiative to try to get to know Liz intimately and personally, and he doesn't really give her the opportunity to speak. Whenever she tries to speak, he's always so defensive and cuts her off and tries to prove his point. In a relationship, and especially in a marriage, proving your point is not always the best way to go about an argument. Sometimes you need to be heard, but also the other person in that marriage needs to be heard as well. So Ed and Liz are pushing forward on this roller coaster ride, moving towards marriage at some point in the future, which I am hoping is far off into the future because at some point, enough has to be enough. We have seen Liz cry this season of 90 Day Fiance Happily Ever After more than we've seen her smile, more than we've seen her talk, more than we've seen her do anything else. And I feel like if any relationship makes you cry and makes you feel this way all the time, it's just not a good relationship to be in. Your mental state and how you feel is based on that relationship and how it makes you feel inside. And the emotions that she has coming out are never positive towards this relationship. And even though she's admitted through her own fruition that she knows that Ed is probably the wrong person for her, she still loves him and wants to try because she wants that security. I personally don't agree. A lot of people at home don't agree. I feel like security is something that you should find in someone who loves, cherishes, and respects you. You can't just look for security for someone and then let them treat you the way that Ed treats Liz. So, will they stay together? Will they get married? Will they stay engaged? What's going to happen with Ed and Liz? Because this is 90 Day Fiance Happily Ever After. So, technically, they should already be married. All right, guys, I'm George Massey. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at George Massey and at georgemassey.com for all your 90 Day Fiance news and updates.